Hi everybody, this is Osprey from MyChartCoach.com, and in this video we're going to take a look at Bitcoin and the crypto stocks. So this is pretty much this is all crypto penny stocks. Okay, so first up is Bitcoin here, and so yesterday that was a nice close above high close horizontal resistance. There was a close above the 719 closing price, and then it also closed above this key support level here from back in June. And then and then it got above the 100-day simple moving average. That was the huge level. That's currently at 7609. That's the gold line there. And so the close above these two levels here was signaling more upside potential, but it was hitting the high close from over here in June. It closed right at that level last night, just around 7700, and then today it followed through with the big push higher. Okay, so now the big level to break is going to be this 8500 zone. Okay, that's the high close from over here in 520, and then the 200-day simple moving average, which is up here at 8677. So this red line. So if it runs up another 5% and hits that 200-day simple moving average, that's where it could stall out. Just above that is the 300-day simple moving average at 8900. So this 86 to 89 level is going to be a really big resistance level. You know, basically 86 to 9000. All right, so it's retraced its way back up to that level. If you look back here in April and May, you could see here this was during the drop and it bounced. It found support in this zone at 8500. You know, just above is the other key level, and yeah, I'll just draw that in here real quick, and yeah, you'll be able to see. Yeah, it lines up perfectly with the 200-day simple moving average. So yeah, so what happens is as long as this pink line is holding and it's right at EMA4 at 77.83, the chart's super strong. If it were to drop below that, it would possibly test this 100-day simple moving average. Now that it's above the 100-day simple moving average, as long as it stays above that level, stays above currently the 7600 level, that should signal it wants to keep pushing higher. If it were to drop below the 100-day simple moving average, that would be a red flag. That would signal the bears are taking over again, similar to over here when there was a drop below the gold line here on back on the 11th of May. That's when the chart really started heading down. That was clear signal that okay, the chart's completely broken. And so right now, look for a possible run up to 8600 to 9000 if it can get through this 82 to 8400 resistance zone. Yeah, let's look at GBTC here. This has been doing really good. This does trade over the counter. It has a nice uptrend going. We had put out alerts when it got above the middle Bollinger Band over here on the 16th, and so that was signaling the possible start of a new uptrend, and it's followed through nicely. You could see here it's currently up 6% on the day. RSI is at 62, so it's still below oversold levels. You have Fasto at 97. You know, right here the bulls are in control with the green line above the black and the red lines. You know, today's candle did form above that upper Bollinger Band, so it's getting a little frothy. The big level to break is going to be this 100-day simple moving average at 1264. If it can get above that level, that should be the signal that it wants to keep pushing higher. That's going to be the big level to break and turn into support. If it fails to break that level, you could see it you know, come down, fill this gap right here, and test that 300-day simple moving average and 50-day simple moving average at 1130 to 1146. As long as it stays above the green and the blue line, this GBTC, the Bitcoin chart, should be really healthy. You know, you should see this nice uptrend for both of them as long as they keep riding EMA4 support higher. Once they drop below, that's when you're gonna, you know, would be a red flag, and then we'll have to start thinking about you know, possible pullback. Okay, now that Bitcoin's been running, the whole crypto sector has heated up, and there's been lots of stocks that you know, were moving last week, and then now this week there's been some big follow through. RIOT's been one of the biggest winners, closed up 27% today. The options, you know, call options were up huge today. People in the chat were posting nice percentage gains. So congrats to everybody. That was a super sweet move. It had the big gap up open today. Yesterday there was a nice close above high close resistance, and so yeah, the close above the closing price there on the 17th yesterday was signaling more upside potential. It turned the middle Bollinger Band at 585 into support, and then it started pushing higher. The big level to break on the chart was going to be this 50-day simple moving average, and actually got above that and the 100-day simple moving average. So now it's above both levels. You want to see it stay above this 720 zone. The circle here is where there's a gap. There's a gap between high of day yesterday and low of day today. And so if resistance fails to break here, it could pull back and fill that gap. So that is the downside risk, that it would drop down there and test that 50-day simple moving average and EMA4 and try to fill that gap. Notice that the share price did break out above this descending resistance line. So this was a pretty strong resistance line that closed above that level yesterday, was the clue that it wanted to break out higher. So take note on that. When there's a break above a descending resistance line like that, usually that it means the stock wants to follow through. And so now the key level to break is the blue line, the 300-day simple moving average at 873. So it's going to need to get above that level to head higher. It broke above that level back in May, and it had a nice push forward. If it stalls out at that level, that's going to signal downside risk. If it gets above 873, look at 950. That was the high close in May. That'll be the next key level to break. And above that is the 200-day simple moving average at 1130. Look at the huge volume today. Giant volume behind the move. Big volume last week when it heated up. This is really cooking right now. So we'll see if it can just keep holding support and breaking resistance. Okay, take a look at MARA. Closed up 20% today. So this is another crypto stock that got a nice uptrend going last week on the 16th. It closed above the middle Bollinger Band. Notice that it hadn't been above the middle Bollinger Band since back there in May, and the downtrend had started. So this close above signaled the possible start of a new uptrend, and it did follow through, and it has gotten a new uptrend going. All right, so it turned this 50-day simple moving average into support, the green line at 117, and then now today it's above the 100-day simple moving average at 136. It needs to stay above that level. If it can hold this 136 level, then you're looking for it to work its way up to that 300-day simple moving average at 189, and this high close resistance level from back here in let's see here, from back in, what day is this? This is back in May, the first week of May at 175. Those would be big levels to the upside to break. In the indecision candle form today. Okay, so this is like almost a spinning top. I mean, the lower wick might not be. It is a spinning top. Okay, you got the long upper wick. You got the lower wick isn't super long, but it is a long lower wick. It signals indecision. It did form above the upper Bollinger Band, and so many times when this happens, you could get a pullback back into the bands. And if you can see here, there is a gap between low of day today and high of day yesterday. And so if 136 support broke, you could see it drop down to 125 to fill that gap. It'd be best if it stayed above 136. A drop below 136 would signal reload levels lower and downside risk. Could possibly come back here, test that 50-day simple moving average again. So just keep that in mind. Another huge volume spike today. Big volume behind the move. Check out the 15-minute chart. You can see after the big open, it went pretty much sideways today, and so to the upside, a break above 152 should be the signal that it wants to head higher. If you see it drop below 138, that was the low close today, that would signal downside risk. It needs to stay above that 50 simple moving average at 132. If it were to fail to do that, then it could come down here and fill the gap. The gap is down here at 125. A drop to 125 would fill the gap. Okay, so let's check out GROW. Closed up 17% today. Yeah, this chart has a really strong uptrend going. You've got our RSI at 62, so it's still not at overbought levels up here. It got above the middle Bollinger Band the first week of July, and it was able to turn that level into support. It got above that 50-day simple moving average, the green line, last week. It dropped back below, and then today it's back above. So right now it's all about staying above 205. If it can turn 205 into support, the next key levels to break are going to be up here, the 100 and 300-day simple moving averages. It's going to need to bust through 235, which is the high close from June 4th, and if it can do that, 250 is going to be the real big level. If it can get above 250, then it could possibly run up to $3 and test that 200-day simple moving average. If it stalls out at one of these three levels, 235, 243, or 250, then it could possibly pull back, consolidate. As long long as the EMA4 at 213, basically if it stays above the 50-day simple moving average now, above $2, that should signal it wants to keep pushing higher. If it were to drop back below that 50-day simple moving average, it could consolidate. Once again, look at the huge volume behind the move. So there was some really big money entered into the crypto sector today, and so we'll see, many times volume precedes price. Is this the big volume, people taking profits at the top, or, and companies, trying to dump some shares into weak hands, or did people just load heavy for the next push higher? We will know by whether or not it breaks resistance and holds support. If you look here at where GROW was in 2017, it did trade way up here above $7. You can see they drove it straight down. In 2018, it's been in a pretty strong downtrend. Well, now it's getting back above the middle Bollinger Band and the 50-month moving average. Keep an eye in mind, this is a monthly chart, so each candle represents one whole month of trading. And so what you're looking for this month is a monthly close above 223. That would be bullish. That would put it back in the uptrend, and then you could possibly see it work its way back up to that 100-month moving average at 349. That's if Bitcoin stays strong, keeps moving higher, that should be good for the crypto stocks. Okay, let's look at SSC here. Okay, so this did close down to, nearly 3% today. It was on a nice run. You can see it had the multi-day run, and this is the climax spike that I'm talking about. You can see how there was a big volume spike yesterday, and then today there's a red candle. That's what I'm concerned with these volume spikes here, if they're going to follow it with a red one. You can see each of these volume spikes were followed by red candles. So that would be a really bullish change in trend if GROW had another green candle, or green volume bar tomorrow and a white candle. Okay, so SSC hit the 200-day simple moving average at 273, failed to break and pulled back. It has to close above that level to head higher. If it did, then you'd be looking at a possible run up here to this high close at just about 305. If it fails to break that 273 like it did today, what you're looking for now is a bounce off of the EMA4 and the 300-day simple moving average at 248. Okay, so it needs to stay above 248. If it were to drop below 248, it could consolidate. It could come down here and fill this small gap. There's a gap here between high of day on Friday and low of day today. I know it's a really small gap, but penny stocks do like to fill gaps, and market makers love to pull back for these kind of, they like to pull them back and fill the gap. And so what I would look at now, if it does pull back like that, I would look for a gap fill. That would be best. It would be unhealthy for this chart to have an unfilled gap and for it to push higher. So now that it's pulling back, it would be really better for it just to come down here, drop to, the 240s, fill the gap, maybe bounce off the 100-day simple moving average or the EMA8 and push higher. Now, if it gets back above the 200-day simple moving average, that's going to signal that it wants to head higher, and it could run up to $3. Okay, let's look at TEUM here. So this has been on a really nice run, up another 6% today. This is a chart that posted back here on Friday. This is the Friday chart, and you can see it was hitting this high close resistance level from June, and then yesterday it closed above that level, and then it was hitting this descending resistance line. Today there was a gap up open above that level. Now it needs to break high close from back here in May. And so this May 8th close, you can see that was right near high of day. If it can bust above $3, then you're looking for a run up to this 320 to 335 zone. That was the resistance from back in May. If it stalls out here at this 290s, you could see it come down here and fill the gap. That there's a gap between a low of day today and a high of day yesterday, and so basically what you'd see likely if it stalls out here is a drop down to 271 there to EMA4, fill the gap, and then what you'd want to see is a bounce off of EMA4 and for it to keep pushing higher. You want to see this descending resistance line turn into support. You don't want to see it drop back below and get back in this previous pattern. Right now it's trying to break out of a symmetrical triangle pattern. You can see here you have descending resistance. So you have the descending resistance, and then you have ascending support. And so right now it's busting out of resistance, and so many times that signals that's the signal. Okay, it finally wants to head higher after winding tight in this chart. Now it's the clue that okay, it's ready to break out. But you know, we can't get too far ahead of ourselves, because bearish 3-gap ups reversal pattern did form yesterday, and then today there was another gap up open. So the chart is extra frothy right now, super frothy. You know, you have RSI now at 72. You could look back here; it has a hard time staying above 70 on RSI. So this is likely where it's going to take a breather. You know, it has multiple gap up opens in a row. That's why, you know, you can see a red candle and a drop down to 271 to fill that gap. You know, if that gap does fill, many times a gap is the catalyst for a bounce. The chart is still super strong. It's got a really good uptrend going. It's just the 4 gap ups in a row is signaling that it's getting a little ahead of itself. Okay, so and sometimes they keep pushing them. You never know. Just know at some point that gap will fill. Okay, NXTD here closed up over 7%. And why I say that is because penny stocks fill gaps. You know, large cap stocks like maybe Apple, you know, isn't going to come always. You know, they usually fill gaps most of the time as well. But sometimes they'll push them without. And you know, you've got the penny stocks are pretty much always going to fill a gap at some point. It could take months, you know, but at some point they would come back and fill that more than likely if there was an unfilled gap on the chart. Okay, so look at NXTD here, closed up 7% today. Yeah, so this chart's been heating up. It got above the middle Bollinger Band last week. Okay, on the 18th, and so that close above the middle Bollinger Band and the 50-day simple moving average was signaling more upside potential, and so now it's hitting the 100, the 200, and the 300-day simple moving averages. If it can get above that 203 level, that's going to be the signal that it wants to head higher. Fail to get above 203, and that's going to signal more consolidation. Has to break above. That's the big level to break. You know, it's been a huge resistance zone. You can see here this tight channel. There was this big channel right here. Now it's back in the previous channel that it was in between April and May, and so now it just has to get through the top of the channel, which is up here. I should have made that red for you to make it easier to see. But now you're looking for a break above the top of the channel, which I always go by the high close level, which is right here on May 15th. And so you can see that's just above this 200-day simple moving average. So a close above both of those levels, that should be the clue that NXTD is ready to head higher. You'll know that it's not ready to go if it drops below the 50-day simple moving average at 176. That's a must-hold level for this to be a good setup. You can see it's closed above that level for 5 days in a row, so it's turning it into support. It just needs to bust through resistance. A drop below would be a sell signal. Okay, so let's look at SRAX here. Closed up nearly 5%. This is you know, a thinly traded penny stock here. It did have some good volume back here in 2017 when it made a big run. You know, it's been working its way higher on super low volume. Right now it's hitting the high close resistance level for July, and if it can close above this July 17th closing price, that should be the signal it wants to head higher. It's right around 575 or so. That should be the big clue, and then it could work its way back up over here to the sixes. You have you know, resistance from over here. There's some high close resistance just above. You know, these are some key zones. But yeah, the bottom line is this is a very good uptrend going. It's been working its way higher. As long as EMA's 4 and 8 support are holding, it should continue. It hasn't closed below EMA 8 at 532. That's the line right there during the uptrend here. So if it did, that would be a bearish change in trend. As long as it's holding, it should keep pushing higher. You know, basically above 575, 580 should put the sixes, possibly run up to 680 or so. If it drops down below 530 and definitely below EMA 13 at 519, that would signal consolidation that could come down here to the middle Bollinger Band and test $5. It has to bust through this 575 resistance zone to head higher. Okay, take a look at DPW. All right, so yeah, this one is heating up. I know it's frustrating some people in the chat here. It's never any fun when they get above the middle Bollinger Band and they just go sideways. That's kind of what the same thing that it did back here in April. It got above the middle Bollinger Band, and then you could see the black black candles and then all the red and black candles as they pulled it down, and that's what they did here. They got it above the middle Bollinger Band, hit the 50-day simple moving average exactly like April, and then now they've worked it down. It is holding the middle Bollinger Band at 54. That's the line in the sand. You notice how they're not allowing it to close below. It keeps closing like right at that level, just above. If it were to close below, then that would be a clear signal that the downtrend's still intact. Right now, it's still signaling that it could get, it's trying to start a new uptrend. There is good volume down here. The red candles, are kind of deceiving here. It could be big dilution, but this could be people loading. You never know. It looks like the volume precedes price. That if they can just refrain from dumping shares for a minute, this could get moving. It has to get above the 50-day simple moving average at 62. Once you see it get above 62 at the close above, that should be the clear signal that it's ready to break out higher. All right, so below 54 signals downside risk, above 62 signals that it wants to head higher. Okay, take a look at NETE, another thinly traded crypto stock. It's trying to set up. Once again, you can see it's had big volume before. It gets volume when it gets running. So right now, what you're looking for is the volume spike and a push through resistance. It's the high close here on the 17th. If it can get above that level, around 830 or so, 840, then you've got the high close in June here at just below 875. Those two levels, break above those two levels, and it could get moving. You've got the high close over here in the 9s. Up here around close to 975. So the chart is winding tight. You've got the Bollinger Bands here. The upper Bollinger Bands at 819, the lower Bollinger Bands at 687. It's getting a pretty tight channel here. At some point, it's either going to break through resistance or it's going to drop below support. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Since the crypto stocks are running, maybe it'll heat up. Take a look here at the end of this video at some over-the-counter crypto stocks. I put these in the last crypto video. This is GAHC, and yeah, it was breaking above that middle Bollinger Band, and that level has turned into support at 0.052, or at least it has been holding, and all the candles have been forming above the EMA4 at 0.062. So what we're looking for is it working its way up to this 50-day simple moving average at 0.077. That'll be the next key level to close above. If it can close above that level, then it could possibly make a move back up to Pennyland. Okay, so if it were to drop below EMA4 at 6.2, that's your signal that this bullish move is cooling off, and then it has to stay above the middle Bollinger Band at 5.2 in order to keep the uptrend going. Another one to look at is BTSC, closed up 12.5% today. So it got the uptrend going last week, got above the middle Bollinger Band, and then you can see here it had been working on turning that level into support since June, and then now it's finally above the 50-day simple moving average, and today above the 100-day simple moving average. So if it can stay above 0.81, above 81, that should be the signal that it wants to keep pushing higher, and then look for a possible run up to 10 cents, possibly 10.6 here, and test that 300-day simple moving average at 10.06. If it were to drop back below 8, that would signal that it's still consolidating, or not ready to keep pushing higher. If it could stay above that 8 level, that should signal that this uptrend's intact and it wants to keep taking it to the next level. Okay, let's look at BTCS here. Closed up nearly 5%. So yeah, so this one is hitting the 100-day simple moving average. It's been setting up here. It got above the middle Bollinger Band, pulled back below. You can see here first it tested it back here in May and June. It was trying to get above, got above a little better in July, and then now it's back above again, and it looks like the middle Bollinger Band at 6.3 has turned into support. It needs to stay above that level. If it were to drop below, it'd be a sell signal. Right now it's above the 50-day simple moving average at 6.7. It needs to stay above that for the chart to be signaling that it wants to keep pushing higher, and it's right at the next key resistance level, which is the 100-day simple moving average at 7.2. If it can get above 7.2, that should be the clue that, okay, this really wants to push higher, and then it could possibly work its way back up to this 200-day simple moving average at 10 cents. You do have the this zone here to work your way through. But first things first, if it can get above that 100-day simple moving average with a close above, that should be a clue that it's wanting to keep this new uptrend going. Okay, so yeah, thanks for viewing this video. With Bitcoin making a bullish move, the crypto stocks have been in play. Check out how Bitcoin's pushing higher. Look at the volume. Look at the volume on Bitcoin. There's some big volume coming in Bitcoin today. That's impressive. So yeah, volume is key here. If it has big volume and a strong uptrend, that should signal it wants to keep pushing higher. Okay, thanks for viewing the video.